Brothers and sisters, hello, 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 and welcome to Readings with Regina. How are you? I know it is probably difficult for many of you as we go through this period of extensive war. You know that United States loves blood. You know that the Israelis love blood. You know that they want to kill, 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 kill. You know that we're in several wars right now. You dig? And this is Mumia Abu Jamal's birthday month. I'm going to get into more of that a little later. It is also little Bobby Hutton's birthday month. He is the first Panther that was killed in the East Oakland branch of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. He and Mumia Abu Jamal share April as their birthday month. But I want to show you Mumia's book because Mumia talks about what we are living through right now. We are living through a genocide because these devils love blood. We are living through manifest destiny. This is why the Israelis and the white Americans felt that they could go to war with Iran. And do you know what they're doing in Iran? Do you know what they're doing in Iran? They're bombing universities. They're bombing hospitals. They're bombing civilian structures. I mean, it's like, these people are showing you what they have been since the beginning of America. You are seeing it raw and in your face right now. But let me stop. I want to stop because this is Readings with Regina. It is not lectures with Regina, but Readings with Regina. And so I want to get right into the books. And I'm going to start with one of your favorites, The Slave Ship by Marcus Rediger. All right, here we go. Captain Anthony Fox, A Slave Ship's Crew, 1748. An unusual document surviving in the archive of the Society of Merchant Venturers in Bristol gives a well-rounded view of a slaving crew. The workers who would sail the machine named the Peggy. Why, everybody, this slave ship was called the Peggy. Isn't that nice? They sailed the Peggy to Africa on August 13th, 1748. Keep these dates in mind. Captain Anthony Fox drew up, quote, an account of men belonging to the Peggy, end of quote, a two-masted vessel which gives abundant information about himself and his 38 men. They ranged in age from 15 to 42. Captain Fox and two other men being the oldest on board. The average age was 26, and for the common seaman, the age would have been even lower were we able to exclude the ages of the officers, who were usually older. For all the information he recorded, Fox did not indicate which jobs the men performed. Despite their relative youth, almost a third of the crew, 12 of 39, would come to a premature death on the voyage. Captain Fox also recorded size, by which he meant height. Perhaps he was conscious of this because he was the tallest man on board at 5 feet 10 inches. The average was 5'6". The men on board the Peggy were well traveled. One of the columns in Captain Fox's account was "Where born," rather than the usual place of abode. The crewmen of the Peggy were mainly from the port cities of Britain, but broadly so, from England, Wales, Scotland, and Ireland. A few came from overseas. There were 4 Swedes on the ship and others from Holland, Genoa, and Guinea. Captain Fox himself was born in Montserrat. The crew members had sailed on various merchant and naval craft from Britain to Africa, the West Indies, North America, the East Indies, and the Mediterranean, Turkey in particular. Several men had been demobilized after the War of Austrian Secession in 1748. Notice war. Notice how Europeans have always been at war with each other or with other people. Their previous ships included men of war, such as the HMS Russell, the HMS Devonshire, the HMS Torbay, and HMS Lawrencetown. One man had served on the Salamander bomb. The African sailor, John Goodboy, had sailed previously on the, quote, Defiance ship of war. Now I'm going to stop there. I want to talk about old John. Now, he was from Guinea. That's in Africa. But his name is John Goodboy. So what does that tell me that I'm going to share with you? It tells me that in 1748, there were already anglicized Africans. All right. Now, they say that enslavement started in the Americas around 1619. Well, this is 1748. You dig? And if his name is John, this means that he's been colonized, because slavery actually started in the 1500s. All right. And John Goodboy, whose name is not Amari or Hakeem or Zuri, these are African names that I'm giving you, but his name is John. Okay. So he has been colonized by Europeans. All right. And he's aboard the slave ship right now. Dig that. In 1748, which showed you, okay, how survival for the African that was transformed into the Negro with their religion, Christianity, the Christianity that the people in the White House practice, the Christianity that tells them to go out and kill every person who's not like them. So John was already changed and influenced and a part of the system of the enslavement of African people. Now, he the only blood on board, John Goodboy. And notice his last name, Goodboy. Oh! So this means that Europeans had changed the world based upon the enslavement of the African. All right, people, let us move on. The next book, Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. Now, Linda Brent, in the book, her name is Linda Brent, but her actual name is Harriet Jacobs. Anyway, she has run away. Her masters, because she had two. She had the father, Dr. Flint, who was a pedophile, and then she had the son, Dr. Flint's son, Mr. Flint, was her master, and she didn't run away. Look, she's tired of being a slave. And let me just say this to you too, people. Linda Brent's slavery was not as bad as other people's slavery, and still she ran away. This girl was a house slave. She didn't work picking cotton, okay, or any other crop. She didn't necessarily work from sun up to sundown, but sundown, still she hated slavery. That's how bad slavery was. And all of you who are Black listening to me, I want you to know that. Don't you overlook our history. Don't you overlook our ancestors. All right, here we go. Linda Brent. I received a message to leave my friend's house at such an hour and go to a certain place where a friend would be waiting for me. As a matter of prudence, no names were mentioned. I had no means of conjecturing who I was to meet or where I was going. I did not like to move thus blindfolded, but I had no choice. It would not do for me to remain where I was. I disguised myself. You dig this? I disguised myself. Enslaved people on the run normally disguised themselves. Summoned up courage to meet the worst, and went to the appointed place. My friend Betty was there. She was the last person I expected to see. We hurried along in silence. The pain in my leg, she had been bit by a snake. The pain in my leg was so intense that it seemed as if I should drop. But fear gave me strength. I love that line. Fear gave me strength. Fear. Get over. Listen, people, you got to be strong. We have to stand up and turn this country around. You dig? So let your fear turn into strength and always know your power. All right, let me continue with the book. Where am I? We reached the house and entered unobserved. Her first words were, "Honey, now you was safe. Them devils ain't coming to search this house." Now check this. See, that's an enslaved person. She's not literate. Linda is literate. Linda knows how to read and write. Her mother and father taught her that. Betty does not. But you know what gets me about Betty? Betty says, "Them devils ain't coming to search this house." Yo! I thought the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the one that said the white man is the devil. No! When you read the enslaved people's narratives, they've been calling white people devils. Yes! Just like the devils now who have bombs that are killing as many civilians as they can. They love killing children. Yo! Yes! Because that's what genocide is about. They don't want a particular race to come back at all. We are living under demonic leadership. This is why you got to turn your fear into strength. Okay, back to the book. When I get you into Mrs. Safe Place, I will bring some nice hot supper. I expect you need it after all this scaring. Betty's vocation led her to think eating was the most important thing in life. She did not realize that my heart was too full for me to care much about supper. The mistress came to meet us and led me upstairs to a small room over her own sleeping apartment. Quote, "You will be safe here, Linda," said she. "I keep this room to store away things that are out of use. The girls are not accustomed to be sent to it, and they will not suspect anything unless they hear some noise. I always keep it locked, and Betty shall take care of the key. But you must be very careful for my sake as well as your own, and you must never tell my secret, for it would ruin me and my family." I'm going to go over this again. This wonderful white woman is helping this woman escape, helping our enslaved girl, Linda, escape. But notice how she says this has to be a secret because it would ruin her family. Do you understand that, people? The culture of America was based upon the debasement, the degradation, and the free labor of Black people. And anybody, especially whites, who went against that system, like this woman said, and she's an enslaver. She owns slaves herself. Her husband buys and sells slaves. But she don't want anybody to know that she is helping a enslaved woman escape bondage. Because if anybody found out, this white family would be ruined. Okay. The girls are not accustomed to be sent to this room, and they will not suspect anything unless they hear some noise. I always keep it locked, and Betty shall take care of the key. But you must be very careful for my sake as well as your own, and you must never tell my secret, for it would ruin me and my family. I will keep the girls busy in the morning, that Betty may have a chance to bring your breakfast, but it will not do for her to come to you again till night. I will come to see you sometimes. Keep up your courage. I hope this state of things will not last long. Betty came with the nice hot supper, and the mistress hastened downstairs to keep things straight till she returned. How my heart overflowed with gratitude. Words choked in my throat, but I could have kissed the feet of my benefactress for that deed of Christian womanhood. May God forever bless her. Now notice the Christian religion here. This enslaved African girl is totally a Negro in America. She is Christianized by her enslavers. I went to sleep that night with the feeling that I was, for the present, the most fortunate slave in town. Morning came and filled my little cell with light. I thanked the Heavenly Father for this safe retreat. Opposite my window was a pile of feather beds. On the top of these, I could lie perfectly concealed and command a view of the street through which Dr. Flint passed to his office. Anxious as I was, I felt a gleam of satisfaction when I saw him. Thus far, I had outwitted him, and I triumphed over it. Who can blame slaves for being cunning? Who can blame slaves for being cunning? They are constantly compelled to resort to it. It is the only weapon of the weak against the oppressed, the strength of their tyrants. Wow. So what she actually is saying here, look, to survive slavery, you got to lie, you got to cheat, you got to steal, you got to embrace every bad moral habit if you are enslaved. And I want you all to remember that, because when you're enslaved, you are in a weakened position to go up against your enslaver. So you have to use other parts of your body, other parts of your mind to even touch your own humanity. All right, here we go. Next book. Ida B. Wells. Ida B. Wells. Ida B. Wells, the first investigative journalist in America. And what did our Ida B. Wells investigate? She investigated lynchings. Very important, okay? Because the media, which I tell you all today, not to listen to. The media during the 19th century, Ida was born just after slavery was supposedly over, 1862. So this is around the 1880s, 1890s that Ida became an investigative reporter, and she is investigating lynchings. Why? Because she, like most Blacks, most Negroes during that time, really believed that lynchings only happened because Black men raped white women. That was in the media. That was in the White House at that time, okay? But once she started investigating lynchings, she found out the real truth. Hence came lynch law to stifle Negro manhood. To stifle Negro manhood. Don't be a man. Don't try to be a man. Don't try to be a Black man. Don't try to be a strong Black man during this period. Okay? Because you could be lynched. Which defended itself. And the burning alive of Negroes, Lord have mercy, who were weak enough to accept favors from white women. All right? I found that in order to justify these horrible atrocities to the world, the Negro was being branded as a race of rapists. Do you hear this? In the 19th century, the Negro was branded as a race of rapists. So all of us are rapists. Who was especially mad after white women. That's all Black men wanted. Was the white woman. He was lascivious. This was in the media of the 19th century. And I want you to think about how the media presents Black men even in the 20th and 21st century. Where am I? I found that white men who had created a race of mulattoes, because white men were raping Black women up, down, right, left, anytime they wanted to, by raping and consorting with Negro women, were still doing so whenever they could. That same white men, though, lynched, burned, and tortured Negro men for doing the same thing with white women, even when the white women were willing victims. See, because look, check this out. Hey, I got to show y'all. I know this going to hurt you, but you got to see this. You got to see this. Okay, because I want you to really see what lynching was about. Now, that's a brother up there lynched like that. And you see he's nude, okay? Which then means that he was probably raped by the lynchers. Oh, yes, they did. Here's another picture. All three men are lynched, okay? And it would be said in the newspapers that they raped. They raped white women. This is what happened with you back during the 19th century. If white women made advances to black men and black men succumbed to those advances, yo. But, and this is very important, the news media wrote about this and blamed the black man. Yes, the black man came from a race of rapists. This is what Ida B. Wells is saying. And Ida knew that the media, but she didn't know it at first. She did not know, just like most Negroes, did not know that the media was lying. And she actually thought her black men, not all of them, but many of them were just rapists. They just had to have a white woman. You know, that white woman, I mean, she attracted everybody. You know what I mean? So they just had to have a white woman. She actually believed that, as did most Negroes who could read, until she went and investigated this on her own. All right, where am I? It seemed horrible to me that death in its most terrible form should be meted out to the Negro who was weak enough to take chances when accepting the invitations of these white women, but that the entire race should be branded as moral monsters and despoilers of white womanhood and childhood was bound to rob us of all the friends we had and silence any protest that they might make for us. For all these reasons, it seemed a stern duty to give the facts I had collected to the world. The Negro race should be ever grateful to T. Thomas Fortune and Jerome B. Peterson of the New York Age that they helped me give to the world the first inside story of Negro lynching. These men printed 10,000 copies of that issue of the Age and broadcast them throughout the country and the South. 1,000 copies were sold in the streets of Memphis alone. Frederick Douglass, y'all remember Fred? Those of you who've been with me for a while, you know we read Frederick Douglass. Yes, Frederick Douglass came from his home in Washington to tell me what a revelation of existing conditions this article had been to him. He had been troubled by the increasing number of lynchings and had begun to believe it true that there was increasing lasciviousness on the part of Negroes. See, this is important. The media printed that Negroes were lascivious, that Negroes were a race of rapists, and even Black people believed them. Black people believed them because it was in the media. I tell you right now, I'm hoping that you, my listeners, have alternative forms of media. Look at RT.com. Look at RT News. They even have a show on RT dedicated to Dr. P.L.O. Lumumba, the great Black scholar from Africa. Okay? You need to look at other forms of news because in America, the media will lie to you. Boom. All right, here I go. Frederick Douglass, he wrote a strong preface to the pamphlet, which I afterward published, embodying these same facts. I have never ceased to be thankful for this contact with Frederick Douglass, the greatest man our race has produced in this so-called land of the free and home of the brave. Do you dig that? The media is very important, okay? The media will influence you and it will influence your children. And I want you and your children to use my videos as teaching tools. The only way we're going to know the truth is if we teach it to ourselves. Okay, I got to get to Asada. Asada. All right, here we go with Asada. Okay, where do I start? Okay, you know she's in jail, so here we go. Finally, a joint conference was arranged between Sundiata and me with Evelyn present. Evelyn is her aunt. Sundiata Akoli was in the car with Asada and Zaid Malik Shakur when they were stopped by the state trooper. It took place at the workhouse. Sundiata was brought from the New Brunswick jail. I've never been happier to see anyone in my life. It was difficult to talk because the guards were practically sitting in our laps. I can't whisper for nothing, and Evelyn kept telling me to lower my voice. We talked about the case and decided that it was politically correct to be tried together. Just seeing Sundiata cooled me right out. I was feeling bad and I was real self-conscious about how I looked. I had broken out in a horrible rash from the prison soap and I looked like a lopsided scarecrow with bumps. There is something about Sundiata that exudes calm. From every part of his being, you can sense the presence of revolutionary spirit and fervor. These are your heroes, people. Sundiata Akoli, Zayd Malik Shakur, Asada Shakur, boom. You want to talk about heroism? Members of the Black Liberation Army, members of the Black Panther Party, the self-defense. Those are your contemporary Black heroes. Know that. All right, where am I? From every part of his being, you can sense the presence of revolutionary spirit and fervor. And his love for Black people is so intense that you can almost touch it and hold it in your hand. There's nothing put on about him. He is a real folksy kind of person. By the way, Sundiata's still with us. Yo, Sundiata, he did many years in jail. Terrible, but he's still with us. Every time I see him, he looks like he belongs on a porch somewhere down south, breathing in the summer air and bouncing babies off his knee. The truth of the matter is that Sundiata's country. He would deny it to the bitter end, but he is sure enough country. And when he laughs, that giggle laugh of his, it's like a trip to Texas in the backwoods. When the conference ended, I was a different person. I felt much stronger. I did not feel alone. I'm going to stop here because I want to talk to you all about Mumia's birthday that is up and coming. And let me change this banner. Let me see if I can get the banner that I want. Yeah, this is what I want. All right. Mumia should not be in prison. No elder should be behind bars. Can you dig it? No elder should be behind bars. And I want you to, there are movements that you could go to see the various events that are going to happen this month, throughout the month of April, especially in Philadelphia, but also around the country, in a celebration of Mumia's birthday. Mumia's birthday is April the 24th. All right, let me bring up, where am I? Let me bring this up. Now, I don't have Mumia in this picture, but in the center, to the right of Huey P. Newton, and I just want to remind y'all, Huey died as Dr. Huey P. Newton, but let me stay with little Bobby Hutton. He's to the right of Huey P. Newton. Well, in my research, I discovered that little Bobby Hutton, who was the first Panther to fall in Oakland, California, he was killed on April 6, 1968. He was born April 21st, 1950. That's little Bobby Hutton right next to Huey. Now, Mumia was born April the 24th, 1954. Okay? And Mumia, of course, is still with us. And we want to get him out of prison because Mumia, like the kind of men that Ida B. Wells talked about, was a strong, intellectual black male who stood up for black people. This is one of the reasons that he was followed by the police. And this is one of the main reasons that he's done 44 years in prison. That is outrageous. I want you to think about going to the Abolitionist Law Center, go to the Jericho movement, go to the Spirit of Mandela, free Kamal Siddiqui. He has a direct relationship with Assata Shakur. That's why he's behind bars. And free Mumia Abu Jamal. And before I sign off for the day, I want to bring this book back up. You ought to get this book, Murder Incorporated. It is written by the brilliant Mumia Abu Jamal and Stephen Victoria. Empire, Genocide, Manifest Destiny. There are 3 volumes of Murder Incorporated. This is the first one, and I have been reading from this since I started readings with Regina, and I have also gotten part 2 of Murder Incorporated. It is a monster. Now, before I close, I just want to remind you again, know your heroes. Celebrate your heroes. Let your fear become your strength. Do not just sit back during this perilous time in this country and the world. Don't let your voice be silenced. Come out to some of the events that you will find out about when you go to mobilization. Let me see if I can find it before I sign off. Mobilization for Mumia. They have a list. Where is it? No, that's not it. They have a list of, oh, here it is. Perfect. Yeah, mobilization for Mumia. Let me bring it up bigger. Mobilization for Mumia. Go to that website and then you can see all of the events that are upcoming, especially in Philadelphia, because we want to free Mumia Abu Jamal because he's brilliant, he's black, he's a man, and he stood up heroically and wrote heroically, and he's still writing heroically for our people. All right? All right, brothers and sisters. I'm going to be signing off now. Now, next Tuesday, I will not be here. I will be back next Thursday, but next Tuesday, I will not be here. So those of you who have subscribed, okay, you should get a notice as to when I will return. It will be next Thursday, not my normal Tuesday and Thursday. Now, once again, remember that I love you dearly. This is why I do what I do. I want you to teach yourself. I want you to teach your children. I want you to teach your grandchildren. And if you know black people who are overwhelmed and can't really teach their children about the true history of this country and of ourselves, you teach them. You become a part of that family. You reach out to help black people any way that you can, because I want you to always remember that you were sent to earth for a reason. I absolutely believe that. And I want you, like Linda Brent, turn your fear into your greatest strength. Okay, brothers and sisters, love you dearly. Pray for you every night and every day. And I will see you again next Thursday. Bye now.